What if I told you that the order you run your pedals in is more important than the pedals themselves? Every week I get asked, where do I run my boost pedal in my signal chain? Or where do I run my volume pedal in my signal chain? Essentially, pedals that change the volume, a boost and a volume pedal. Where should you run them? Is there a wrong spot? Is there a right spot to run them? I'm going to show you today with audio examples what happens when you change the placement of your volume and your boost pedal in your signal chain. First, let's talk about the gear that we're using. As you can see on screen here, we have an RJM PBC6X. This is a highly functional MIDI controller, but it's also a true bypass strip built into the same unit. What this means is that very quickly I can go from preset 1 to preset 2 and then 3, and the order of everything you see here on the table will automatically change. So I'm going to show you on screen what the current order is so you have a very clear picture of what's going on. I'm also using a Love Pedal Kanji Overdrive, slightly based on a TS9 but has a bit more gain, and then I'm using the star of the show today. This is an Oscillator Devices Siren. This is a stereo volume pedal, but it can also be used as a clean boost. So today we're just using it in mono and we are running it in multiple spots. But in theory, we could run this in stereo anywhere we want. We could run it in 2 different spots in mono and have independent control all over MIDI. And of course it does a whole bunch more, like all of the oscillator gear. So this is going to be our boost today. Then we're going into 2 of my favorites, LVX and Mercury X by Maris. This is going to take care of the delay and the reverb sounds. We're going to be using the basics today, but man, there are some great presets on these things. They sound awesome. So this is the gear that we are going to be using today, and we're going to demonstrate how changing the position of a volume-based effect changes the result. Lastly, let me point out that none of the pedal settings changed throughout this video. The boost is always running at about 6 dB of extra gain. The overdrive settings stay the same. The delay and reverb settings stay the same. The only thing we are changing is the order of these effects throughout the video. So you're going to hear some drastic changes, and the only thing that is changing is signal chain. Let's get into some audio examples. First up, we are going to run no boost into an overdrive, delay, reverb. Then we're going to turn the boost on. Same thing, into overdrive, delay, and then reverb. Then we're going to discuss the differences. After that, I'm going to show you the volume pedal in the same position. So you just heard boost into overdrive, into delay, reverb, and then out to an amp. What you hear before the boost is turned on is just a standard overdriven signal. Then we turn that boost on. You would think that you're going to hear more volume, but what you actually tend to hear is more saturation. It's almost like you're turning up the gain knob on your overdrive pedal. This is what happens typically when you put boost before gain, is you get more gain. So if you want to get more volume, this is not the placement for you. If you want to get more saturation, boost early or pre-drive is where you want to place your boost pedal. Now onto volume. This comes out of people that show me their signal chains. Often they put their volume first in their signal chain, and I simply ask why. Why did you put it first? It's not wrong, it's not right, but why did you pick first in the chain? And 9 times out of 10, I don't know, that's just where it ended up. This is a critical decision for your signal chain and has far-reaching consequences onto how your volume pedal performs in your signal chain. So now let's listen to the volume pedal, and we're gonna do a swell type pattern and show you some different levels of that volume pedal and how it changes as that volume pedal comes up or increases in level.
Thank you.
So as you heard there with the volume pedal, when you're almost off all the way back, you get a very clean sound. Similar to when you pull the volume pot back on your guitar, it cleans up. Now, if you have a volume pot, like most of us do, you can clean up your sound on the guitar. So really, I see it as a little bit redundant to have both a volume pedal first that cleans up your signal and a volume pot on your guitar that cleans up your signal. So now you have to wonder, what happens if you move your volume pedal later in your signal chain? Let's go on to position 2 for boost and volume. Now our signal chain is guitar, overdrive, boost and volume into delay, reverb, and out to an amp. Now things are going to change quite drastically. Let's listen first to the boost after overdrive example and see what the difference is. Okay, so you just heard overdrive, no boost, delay, reverb. So just the 3 pedals were on. Then we turned on the boost. Everything else stayed the same, but now we are going overdrive, boost, delay, reverb, out. Now instead of hearing more saturation or gain out of that overdrive pedal, now we hear more level. So now the level actually does increase. This is great if you want to stick out in a mix, boost that level just a little bit, which is exaggerated in this video today, but we boost that level just a bit so you can stick out in a solo, a lead line, a certain part, whatever it may be. Boost after overdrive will give you more level rather than saturation. Now let's see what happens. One of my favorites, if you put your volume pedal after your overdrive. It is much different than putting your volume pedal before. Let's take a listen and see what we hear. In this example, the volume pedal is almost all the way off again, and you hear the full range of clipping from that overdrive pedal. You don't get to clean up your guitar signal. Now you get saturated, driven guitar at the bottom of the volume pedal, and that clipping does not change the whole way up. Now what changes again is the level, the volume of your signal when you push that volume pedal forward. This tends to be, I don't want to say always, but this tends to be a more desirable sound for volume swells. If you play in church or ambient music, you get the texture of the overdrive through the full sweep. You get that overdriven sound the same at the bottom as you do up at the top, which then feeds into your delay and reverb, which gives a little bit more of a desirable sound for volume swells like I mentioned. Again, this isn't right or wrong. It just tends to fit in better in this style of music. So now we've listened to volume and boost pre-drive, post-drive, and now just for fun, we have to try it after delay and reverb as well. Let's see what happens. If you ever wanted to experiment with your signal chain, like I strongly recommend that everyone does, you need to then ask the question about putting your volume and boost after your delay and reverb. One of these is more subtle than the other, so let's start there. We're going to start with the boost. This is the signal chain of first going guitar, overdrive, delay, reverb, boost off, and then we'll turn that boost on right at the very end of the signal chain. The differences are subtle from position 2 right after the overdrive and position 3 right after the delay and reverb, but there is a difference. See if you can pick it, and then we'll talk about it. Heard the boost after reverb. The difference that I hear is a little bit more clarity in the signal. It's almost like the gain was just pulled back a little bit. Maybe we got a little bit more top end in there, but it does have a subtle difference between position 2 after the drive and position 3 after the reverb. I'm curious if you guys heard even anything a little bit different to what I did, but that was the thing I noticed first. Now let's go into volume after the reverb pedal. So now it's guitar, overdrive, delay, reverb, volume out to an amp. This one is a little bit more drastic. So as you can see, this is not a great position for volume swells because you have no transition time. Whereas the volume was after the overdrive feeding the delay and reverb, when you pulled that back, you had the repeats and the decay of the delay and reverb to cover until you got to the next volume swell. So it makes for more of a patty synth type sound. But when volume is at the very end, as soon as you pull the volume pedal back, you're cutting off the repeats and the decay of the delay and reverb. So now you get an instant mute. No matter what is happening before that volume pedal, the volume will kill that signal and nothing gets sent on to the amp. So in this case, I've never really seen this done on a pedal board or in any real usable scenario, but you get a very clear picture of the power of signal chain. The order that you run your pedals in determines a lot. Personally, I would much rather have my say on my signal chain than I would even on the pedals that I'm using. It is that important to me, and all of the hundreds of experiments that I've done over the years, signal chain determines much, much more than people give it credit for. The next time you're setting up your pedal board, take some extra time to try out different signal chain orders, whether it be overdrives, wherever modulation goes, whether it's pre or post drive, delay and reverb, have you run them in series or parallel, and of course, boost and volume. Where are they going to end up in your signal chain? Let me know what you guys find when you do your own experiments. I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to get challenged on some new tests that I can run on my own board. I'll see you guys in the comments.